Big Trouble in Little China, a game that was launched at Gen Con 2016, a new game in the Legend, wait for it, Dairy system by Upper Deck. The Legendary system has included games about Marvel superheroes. Those were the first games in the system. I enjoyed them, but not excessively. They were okay. But then the system really made me fall in love with it when it was adapted to the Aliens franchise and then the Predator franchise. Because then in those two games, in those two sets, Legendary Aliens and Legendary Predator, the game acquired a very strong narrative feel, a narrative progression. It's a deck building game that somehow managed to tell stories, so that was really exciting, innovative, fresh, and well implemented. Here we have a new game in that system, Big Trouble in Little China. So again, we have a movie source that has been adapted for a deck building system. And if you know other Legendary games, learning this one will be very easy. Most of the concepts remain the same. There are some adaptations and some different things. For example, how do you create variety when your source is only one movie rather than, like in the Alien set, a series of movies. So we'll see all of these things. But first we need to have a look at the components and see how the game works. Now, you have a nice mat. This is standard, well, at least it was in my box, so I assume that this is standard. It comes with all copies of the game. It's not an upgrade that you need to purchase separately. Each game will have a mastermind trying to pursue a specific evil scheme. There are several masterminds. One is selected randomly or not randomly at the beginning of each game. Each mastermind comes with a main card that tells you the group of enemies that always come with that villain, and then then the Master Strike effect, which is triggered by Master Strike cards. Each villain also comes with each mastermind comes with 4 tactical cards, and I'm not gonna show them to you because I don't want to give you any spoilers. Let's just say that these cards allow the villain to perform certain actions. These cards are shuffled and placed face down under the mastermind. Each time that the players attack the mastermind, they draw one of these cards, they reveal it, and they implement the effect. I suggest that you do not look at the cards before your first game, so that also you have a surprise there. There will be surprises as of regarding what the mastermind can do. Schemes. The masterminds are trying to complete their evil plans. So in each game you will have a scheme. As you can see, there are a lot of them. And the schemes are triggered by twist cards. We'll talk about those in a minute. Depending on the scheme that you have, when a twist card is revealed, you simply follow the twist effect described there. The effects are vastly different, and they do lead gameplay in different ways. You have assassination, in which the villains are killing a lot of heroes. Very different missions that they try to accomplish. Each scheme has an evil win condition. If the area of the board that is controlled by the scheme cards and the mastermind manages to accomplish the objectives of the evil wins line on the card, then the game wins and the players all together lose. This, however, is not a fully cooperative game, because yes, there is a condition by which all players will lose the game, but then if the players work together so they do not lose the game, only one player will win. You will count the victory points. It's a little more competitive than you have in other Legendary sets or in some other cooperative games. But as you can see, there will be a lot of replay value thanks to a large number of schemes and a good number of masterminds. That's only one of the ones that are available in the game. In each game you will have a villain deck that you form at the beginning of the game by shuffling together several types of cards. Several decks representing different groups of enemies. One is the one that is always associated with the mastermind. The other groups of enemies are selected randomly, or you can choose them. You also mix in a number of twist cards that will trigger scheme effects of Master Strikes that will trigger the Master Strike effects, and also bystanders. Bystanders are, well, exactly what it sounds like. People that are not looking for trouble, but they get caught in the action. Sometimes they get kidnapped by the evil people. What is interesting is that there are a lot of generic bystanders, but then you also have some special bystanders with unique abilities, sometimes based on specific locations. Some of these bystanders are trying to escape or to fight the villains, so they give trouble, they cause trouble for the villain that is trying to take them away. Fun stuff. So you also draw a couple of bystanders from this deck and you add it to the villain deck. So at the end, the villain deck, as I said, will have a mix of plot twists, Master Strikes, and enemies from various sources, and some bystanders. Bystanders. I don't see any bystander in here. Maybe I forgot to shuffle them in this time. Now, at the beginning of a player's turn, you flip a card face up from this deck. If it is a monster, if it is an enemy, it simply goes here in the first slot of this area here. This is the area where the villains move, trying to reach the bridge and then to escape from this area of the board. If they do so, there are penalties for the players, and there are even more severe penalties if the villain is carrying a bystander through game effects, because really the player should try to save the bystanders to defeat the villain before the villain reaches the end of the track and escapes from the city with a poor bystander that is being kidnapped. If there are multiple villains, well, the villains that come out, you always put in the rightmost box of this track. So if it is occupied, you simply slide them down, and this works like in other legendary games. You simply slide down cards to make a new slot available. If there are slots that are available, because for example this is being removed during combat or by game effects, then you do not need to slide down. You simply fill all the boxes as needed as the cards come out of that deck. This is for the monsters. Some monsters have an ambush ability, so you simply resolve it when the card is revealed. And then if you have a Master Strike card, if a Master Strike card is revealed, you trigger the Mastermind effect, as I said. Plot twist or twist card, then you follow the twist instructions on the scheme that you have selected. Bystander, if a bystander comes out of the deck, it is attached to a villain in that row. So this is what the bad guys do. They're trying to complete their evil scheme. Now, how about the good guys, represented by the players? Well, each player starts with a basic deck of 10 cards. Basically, you have 4 of these cards that have combat abilities and 6 of these cards that allow you to acquire other cards. Anatomy of the card, super simple. This is the cost that the players must spend to purchase that card. These are starting cards, so they get in your starting deck, so they're 0. Later on, when you purchase a card, that is the number that you need to pay. This number here is the attack value, and this number here is the purchase value that you need to produce to purchase of the card. And you put together attack values trying to match or exceed the combat value of an enemy. If you do so, you defeat that enemy. As I said, 10 cards, but actually this is not all of your initial deck. Your initial deck is made of these 10 cards plus 2 cards randomly selected from this deck of mediocre heroes. It's a fairly unfortunate way to call them. At least, I don't know, there's something sad about that. It's like weaker versions of the heroes. I guess it shows the heroes at the beginning of the story when they're not fully committed, not fully experienced. And so you draw 2 of these randomly and you add them to your initial deck, which will then be of 12 cards. They have some powers, but as the name says, they're not particularly powerful. They're fairly, guess what, mediocre. So you have your deck of cards, shuffle, 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 and then you draw a hand of 6, and during your turn, you can play cards to produce effects. You can use these icons to attack enemies, in which case you simply show that you can produce a sufficient number of attack points to defeat an enemy, or more than one. If you can defeat more than one, hooray, good for you. And when you defeat an enemy, the enemy goes in your victory pile, and so does any bystander that the enemy may be carrying. Then, for using cards from your hand, you can also produce these points that you use to purchase cards from this line of available cards here, from the headquarters. In each game, you will shuffle together 5 decks of cards associated with various heroes. We have Jack Barton, of course, Gracie Law, Eddie, we have Wan Chi, and, well, these are not all of them. This is just a deck, how a deck will look when you shuffle together 5 heroes. There are more that are available, so again, replay value and customization is possible when you put together your hero deck. 5 cards are drawn randomly, and when a player acquires a card, then another one is drawn immediately to replace the one that was just purchased. You purchase a card, goes in a discard pile. Like in most other deck building games, you will be able to use it only after you're done with your deck. You need to redraw cards. You do not have any cards in your draw pile. You shuffle your discard pile where your new acquisitions are. By shuffling the discard pile, you form a new draw deck, and that's how you get the cards that you acquired. So you are acquiring new cards, putting together game effects, like in other legendary games. The cards have icons here, and there are game effects related to those. So certain game effects are triggered if, for example, early in the turn you have played a card with that symbol, or with that symbol, or with whichever other symbol. A lot of effects that interact with one another. So you're producing resources to buy new cards, beef up your deck, use game effects actually to eliminate the weak cards from your deck. Some game effects will put wands in your deck, and these wands, well, they're really just nothing. They do nothing. They simply clog your hand and reduce the effectiveness of your deck. You also have here Uncle Chu. A lot of these cards are available for purchase. Pretty much is always available to help you. It's a good card. You spend 3, produces 2. And you have this effect here that allows you to eliminate, to KO, means simply to discard for good from the game, a wand from your hand or discard pile. You improve your deck by buying new cards. You eliminate the enemies before they escape to avoid negative effects and to create a victory pile for yourself. And when possible, you attack the mastermind. The game is over and the players win because they have followed the plans of the mastermind if they attack the mastermind 4 times, and so these 4 tactic cards belonging to the mastermind are assigned and go to the player's discard pile. So that's one way the game ends. If the players attack the mastermind 4 times, they win the game. Well, they do not lose the game. Then only one player will win the game, the player with the most points in their scoring pile. Otherwise, if the mastermind completes the evil scheme, the game system wins and all players lose. It may also be that the scheme is not completed, the players avoided the negative effects, and the villain deck or the hero deck are exhausted, in which case, well, it's a minor victory. They prevented the scheme from happening, they prevented the world from ending, or whatever it is that the mastermind was trying to achieve, but they did not defeat the mastermind, in which case it's a minor victory. The player with the most points in the in the scoring pile is still the winner of the game, but it's more of like a Pyrrhic victory, really. Thematically, the game is a winner for me. I really like the movie, and I'm glad that Upper Deck brought back this bizarre and campy fantasy from the 1980s, and the game captures some of the strangeness, or a lot of the strangeness of the movie, with the monsters, with the encounters, with the funny characters. Thematically, the game works. The art is good overall, very different. There are different styles in the cards. It's not necessarily very homogeneous, especially Gracie Law. The art on the cards of Gracie Law is very different from the other art. It just so happens that the portrait of our main guy on the box just looks a little weird, just doesn't look right. Think about the shape of the head or the posture. Details, small stuff. The game is definitely thematically and visually pleasant. I like the math and everything. Mechanically, the game has a lot of good things. I like the huge replay value that comes on the masterminds and the schemes. There's a lot, there are a lot of combinations that you can have there with different masterminds trying to achieve one of many possible schemes. And the first time that you play each mastermind, if you don't pick up the tactical cards, there are also more surprises that will come from that. I really like this aspect of having to hit the mastermind several times as they deal victory condition with different effects that are triggered there, and even once you know which ones are under each mastermind, then you will know exactly which one you're gonna get every time that you attack the mastermind. So that is fun stuff. I like the mediocre heroes, although the name is not particularly enticing. I like the fact that your starting decks are different, that there is variety there, which is not all that standard, is not very common in deck building games. I like that. So there are all these elements that work pretty well, and the schemes are fun. They're different from one another. So I do not have many complaints about what's in here, what you find here. However, I do miss what I found in some of the legendary sets, which I like very much. I mean, my favorite part of legendary aliens and predators was in the narrative structure, in the build-up that you have in each game, due to the fact that the various objectives that you have to accomplish are structured in a specific way, so that you have to accomplish different things that follow the plots of the movies, and that gives an enormous sense of narrative. It really gave those games a storytelling element almost, and it made different parts of each game very different from one another. Yes, there is a difference in the fact that your deck changes over time, but that is typical of deck building games, but also the challenges that you're facing are different because of different chapters in which those games are structured. Here we kind of like go back to the Marvel superhero legendary implementation, which is you do the same thing over and over again. After all, most of the twists, or many of the twists, they produce the same kind of effect over and over again. Some they have different things, but they do not give you nearly as much structure as you had in Aliens or Predators. Also, the objective at the end is to punch the mastermind 4 times in the face. So in each game you are trying to get your deck as strong as possible with a lot of attacks, etc, etc. And again, that is at the core the idea behind all of the legendary games, but in Predators and Aliens that was also paired with secondary objectives that really gave each game and each section of each game a different flavor. Here the game each game session, while different from the previous ones, thank you to the replay elements that I described, still each session in itself feels more straightforward, more linear. There is less of an increment in narrative tension. Villains keep coming out in no specific order, and you fight and destroy them. You look for breaks, for moments where you can take a break and you have enough strength to punch the villain, and you try to do that before the twist of the scheme cause the end of the game and cause you to lose the game. It has more of a countdown feel to it, like you're running against the clock, rather than as it happened in some of the games. You run against the clock, but also climbing a narrative ladder that goes somewhere, and has different steps that need to be taken in different ways. There is just more variety in the other games. I know this is a review of Big Trouble in Little China, but since this belongs to a family that now has several members, I think that really it makes sense to make a comparison, and simply I cannot think of Big Trouble in Little China Legendary without comparing it to the other ones. So I like it per se, but I do miss what we had in those other games, which was the narrative structure in different chapters. Again, here having only one movie to start from would have been difficult to have, I believe, different structures in several chapters, having this idea of standard groups of villains that come out without an intrinsic connection to a plot, And then schemes that again do not have any specific connection to this or that villain increases the replay value from game to game, but does not give you a variety or a strong sense of progression within each game, not in the same way as you had in Aliens or Predators. That is to say, this is a perfectly fine game. If you like the movie, this is a fun game. If you like legendary Marvel superheroes, this is better. This to me has more elements. If you like Legendary or Predators because of the narrative elements, this game is not as strong in that department as those other ones. It's perfectly fine per se, not my favorite in the Legendary family, but still a very good game overall, still a very good offer among the deck builders out there. It is still a deck builder with a fun and original game with very simple mechanics. The Legendary system is one of the simplest deck building systems out there, with simple mechanics but still strong gameplay. Fun game, absolutely fine per se, simply not the best in the family in my very humble opinion.